All board members are present and accounted for.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now move on to the presentation portion of our meeting. First, we are going to recognize the Carmel High School girls lacrosse team state champions, Mr. Inskeep.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Beresford and members of the board. It's always an honor and privilege to come before you this evening to recognize some outstanding achievements from our student athletes. And before I get a chance to bring them up, I would like to say a few words just thanking their parents, not only those that are here tonight, but all in the program, because they play such a vital role with how positive they are, their support of our coaching staff, and we couldn't do what we do at the high school and the athletic department without their support. So big round of applause to all of them. At this time, I'm going to have our members of the girls lacrosse program that are here this evening come forward, and their head coach, Josh Miller. While they're moving this way, they're graduates, so they're moving a little slower. So I will say a few words about their outstanding season. The team completed an improbable comeback against Guerin Catholic on June 1st to win the state championship. Trailing 8-2, the Greyhounds kept chipping away at the deficit, and then with a dominating second half, eventually took a 10-9 lead and a victory for their fourth state championship since 2019. I can't say enough about the spirit and teamwork this group exhibited this season. They've been very close to reaching their team goals the last several years, so it's been very rewarding to see their celebration in the rain on that Saturday in Noblesville. The head coach is Josh Miller, and right now I will be having each of the team members that are here, these are graduated seniors, they're going to come to the podium with a very special assignment. So you're going to tell us your name and where you're going to college and what you're studying for the first year. Okay? All right.
Okay, I'm Reese Keetle. I'm going to the University of Nebraska, and I'm going to study marketing and entrepreneurship.
My name's Sophia Middleton. I'm going to the University of Cincinnati, and I'm studying criminal justice.
Hello, I'm Olivia Slowey. I'll be going to Central Michigan University, and I'll be studying mechanical engineering.
Okay, before you guys get, I was there, and so I can't help myself, but you guys, to get the picture, it was pouring down rain. It was crazy, awful weather. I still don't understand the rules of lacrosse. It was like they get to whack each other with sticks, but not all the time. And so they call a lot of penalties and things. And we were done. The game was like you were way behind at the end of the first quarter, and then they did this little baby comeback at the end of the second, and I was kind of like, well, maybe we've got a chance. And then they dominated the third quarter and took a 1-point lead. And then it was, I can't remember, I had, how much time was left when we took the lead? It was like 7 minutes to go. And do you guys remember the story about the hockey team, you know, the miracle hockey team, where there was like 100 shots on goal and that guy just kept blocking them? Well, there was like all these shots, and these girls just stopped it cold, and they held that for 7 minutes and won the state championship. It was one of the most amazing things in sports, and the rain didn't bother us after that. It was like we were just having a great time. So congratulations! It was an amazing game.
Next up, we are going to recognize the Indiana Association of Principals District 5 Principals of the Year, Dr. Beresford.
Thank you. I would like to invite Mr. Pelich and Dr. Green to come up here and hang out with me. There she comes. All right. Every year, the Indiana Association of School Principals, there's 12 districts in the state, and each district chooses a principal of the year. And this year, Carmel Clay Schools in District 5 had the elementary principal of the year, Dr. Green, and the middle school principal of the year, Mr. Pelich here. So out of 12 district winners, 2 of them were from Carmel Clay Schools, which to me is just phenomenal right out of the bat. So we'll give you. Now, as chosen as the District 5 Principals of the Year, then they're in competition for the State Principals of the Year. And I believe that's going to be determined a little bit later. And so they've got their application, all their paperwork in for that. And so I wanted to share just a little bit about the recommendation that I wrote for them. And it's been a pleasure to watch these leaders just get a little bit of attention for all the great work they do. So I'm going to start with Dr. Green. I said, Dr. Green joined our district in 2018 and quickly made a significant impact as a principal of Mohawk Trails Elementary. Under her guidance, the school was recognized as a National Blue Ribbon School in 2019. Her leadership has been characterized by a unique blend of innovation, strategic thinking, and deep understanding of the educational landscape, as well as a strong dedication to foster positive and enriching learning environments. And if you've been to Mohawk Trails, you know the learning environment there is very, very special. Dr. Green has consistently demonstrated her ability to inspire and guide others. She's been instrumental in shaping the culture at both the building and district levels. I could say that about both of you. Her collaborative approach and emphasis on PLCs, which is professional learning communities, which is collaboration between teachers and other educators in the building, has fostered an environment where educators feel supported and empowered to excel in their roles. Dr. Green is student-centered. Her decision-making is always based on the best interests of all students under her care, and the combination of smarts and heart make her an ideal candidate for Indiana's Elementary Principal of the Year. So that is Dr. Green. Now it's Mr. Pelich's turn here. Stephen has made a huge impact during his short tenure at Creekside Middle School. Mr. Pelich led his team to conduct an audit to identify words to describe the values of the school community. By gathering input from all school stakeholders, including teachers, custodians, parents, students, everybody, Stephen and his team developed the Creekside Creed, which is read every day at the end of our daily announcements. We are one community, centered in growth, taking responsibility, rooted in respect, living with integrity to discover the best in ourselves every single day. Steve stated when he became the principal of Creekside, the continued growth and success of Carmel Clay Schools is of utmost importance to my family and me. He's also a parent in our district. I understand the responsibility of school leadership in ensuring all students have access to a high-quality education that provides opportunities for academic, social, and emotional growth in a safe and nurturing environment. Being entrusted in this role is one that I do not take lightly, and I will work daily to ensure that decisions are made collaboratively and in the best interest of students. And I can say with fidelity that you have done so. Stephen has been the perfect fit to lead the Wildcats now and into the future. He's a proven leader with a history of success. He has both the skill and heart to make a positive difference. He will work alongside the Creekside team to not only continue the tradition of excellence, but keep working to get even better. And that is Stephen Pelich. At this time, we're going to take your picture multiple times. Go right this way. And if the paparazzi would like to come up and take pictures.
Our next recognitions are the Carmel Clay Schools Assistant Principal of the Year, Principal of the Year, and Administrator of the Year. Dr. Ostrike.
Thank you and good evening, President Coquet, Dr. Beresford, and members of the board. It's an honor tonight to be recognized and to be here to recognize those administrators of the year. And we would like to start off by recognizing Mr. Matt Hunter from Woodbrook Elementary School as the 2024 Carmel Clay Schools Assistant Principal of the Year. Matt is an extremely hard worker. His goal every day is to support students and teachers in meaningful ways that meet the needs of everyone that he serves. Matt believes in the power of building relationships and making connections. On a daily basis, Matt makes it a priority to talk to as many students and staff members as possible. He is always pitching in and helping out wherever help is needed. Matt also believes in building relationships with parents. He proactively invites parents and guardians to collaborate for the benefit of their children. He supports Principal Kelly Davis at a very high level, and she and we are grateful for your dedication and leadership to Woodbrook Elementary School and Carmel Clay Schools. Congratulations, Matt Hunter. We'll get pictures at the end here, Matt. And from Clay Center Elementary School, we are extremely proud to announce our Carmel Clay Schools Principal of the Year, Mrs. Rhonda Turner. Mrs. Turner is always willing to take on new ideas in pursuit of providing rigorous learning experiences for all students. Rhonda knows the value of distributive leadership and works hard to collaborate with her teachers and staff to carry out best practices. She shares insights with her colleagues that is honest and intuitive, and her experience shines in her advocacy for students and staff. What really stands out about Rhonda Turner is that students are her top priority. Rhonda is always thinking of how to do things better so that teachers are well-equipped instructionally and that students are getting all they deserve educationally. Mrs. Turner is admired by her colleagues, and we appreciate her focus on what's most important in our district, our students. Congratulations, Rhonda Turner, Principal of the Year. And before I announce the Administrator of the Year for Carmel Clay Schools, I wanted to let you know that we have a committee that meets, and all of the administrators can nominate each other for Administrator of the Year. The committee gets together, we review all of the comments, all of the nominations. Each of the three administrators that we are celebrating tonight had multiple nominations from their colleagues. And it is such an honor to be able to recognize their hard work each and every day in our district. And so thank you to the committee that met to identify this year's Administrators of the Year. And without ado, our Administrator of the Year, congratulations to Carmel Clay Schools, Miss Tammy Thornberry, our Assistant Director of Special Services. Tammy serves as Assistant Director of Special Education and has been a very important part of advocating for CCS students for several years. Her commitment and passion for supporting students and families with special needs is nothing short of inspiring. Tammy has built strong relationships with the staff at all 15 buildings, in addition to community partners, to build a strong foundation for the development of our special education program here in Carmel. Tammy always puts the needs of our kids first while supporting staff and parents throughout the year. Thank you, Ms. Thornberry, for your unwavering dedication and commitment to Carmel Clay Schools. Congratulations, Administrator of the Year, Ms. Tammy Thornberry. And at this time, would our 3 Administrators of the Year please come forward?
We will now move on to public comment. We do have 2 public comments this evening. First, I'm just going to remind you, if there was anybody that wanted to leave, I'm sorry, I will take a quick break. If you wanted to leave, if you needed to be somewhere tonight, if not, you can stick around for public comment and the rest of the meeting. It is up to you. Board bylaw, speakers will be placed in Group 1 and Group 2. Those in Group 1 are CCS students, CCS parents and guardians, CCS employees, and Carmel residents, and they will be allowed to speak first before participants in Group 2. We have just one from Group 1 and one from Group 2, so that already determined the order for us. As a reminder, participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and must preface their comments by an announcement of their name and group affiliation. Comments may not reference specific corporation employees, patrons, or students. Comments shall be directed to the board. No person may address or question individual board members. The school board will not act on or respond to questions or comments, but will take them under advisement. Ready? First up Well, again, we had two. And first up is Jim May, as he is in Group 1.
Hi, I'm Jim May. I'm a parent with two kids at Woodbrook Elementary, and my comments tonight are to the board and administration, but also just to our community. One of our sons is going into fourth grade, so this past March he took iRead and he failed by 10 points. He got a 436 when a passing score was a 446. This was really surprising to both me and my wife. We've read to him pretty much daily since he was born. He's read to us and his little brother for the past several years. He usually reads books at about a fifth grade level on his own, and we discuss them with him afterwards to make sure he's actually absorbing it. So while we don't necessarily put a lot of stock in standardized test results, we did expect him to pass iRead. We discussed it with him, we discussed it with his teacher, and we're pretty sure we identified the primary problem. When he's doing a task in a group, he tends to get competitive in terms of how quickly he can complete it. And we talked to his teacher. She said, yes, he was indeed among some of the first students to complete the test. So we talked to him. We practiced kind of taking our time, slowing down a little bit, absorbing things. He retook the test in May, and it worked. His score jumped 95 points to a 531. This past week, we received his iLearn results. He's well above proficiency in math, just below proficiency in English language arts. We asked if he remembered taking the test. He did. We asked if he took his time or if he tended to speed through them again, and he kind of sheepishly admitted, yeah, I think I went pretty fast on him. So we have zero doubt he would have easily scored above proficiency in English and had an even higher math score if he'd taken it slow. I'm sharing his story because every year these scores get released, and we have some local groups who use them as a pretext to attack the schools. In 2022, they were used during the school board campaign. I've seen them used by individuals in the community this year already, and I hope that our community doesn't get bogged down in such silly arguments this year. We shouldn't pretend that an hours-long, high-pressure, computer-administered test can reliably measure the math and English aptitude of a bunch of kids as young as 8 years old. We shouldn't pretend that kids' scores aren't impacted by a whole host of factors, totally unrelated to their actual abilities or academic progress. We shouldn't pretend that a school that has half a dozen or more or half a dozen fewer students pass a test from year to year means that that school's performance has changed in any kind of significant way. And we shouldn't pretend we can meaningfully compare pass rates between schools while we ignore the fact that their student bodies have very different compositions in terms of how many students might be in poverty or have special needs or learning how to speak English. I do realize that these tests have some level of value in giving us an idea of where we should look to evaluate and see, maybe is there a problem developing here? Maybe is this school doing something right that they've improved? But I think it's a mistake to act as if these scores in a vacuum tell us anything concrete or definitive about our kids, our schools, or the district. I think that would be true in any school district, but it's especially true here where this year we've got over 79% of our kids passing one or both sections of iLearn. So appreciate your time. Not sure about mentioning individuals. I did want to say I thought the board made an excellent decision on our next superintendent. Thank you.
Next up is Matt McNally.
Hi, my name is Matt McNally, and I'm in Group 2, and I think I'm about to violate your comment about members of the board because I'm here to commend Dr. Beresford on his amazing career. I'm a proud uncle of 3 Carmel School alumni and 1 incoming freshman, and I promise you he will be a handful. I apologize ahead of time. And overall, I'm a supporter of our public schools, public education, and our public school teachers. So first and foremost, I want to thank Dr. Beresford for his many years of dedicated service to generations of students. Carmel has excellent schools, and many people that I speak with on a daily basis agree that they choose to live here because of those schools and the amazing opportunities that they offer our children. And Dr. Beresford has been a force in continuing that reputation. On a personal note, I want to thank you for always making yourself available, whether it be at a Westfield Youth Association Foundation, a swim meet, or polling station on the street. It didn't matter. You were always there to answer questions, explain administrative changes. And Dr. Beresford, you always put the children first, even when others in the community wanted to bring in their own agendas. I'm grateful to Dr. Beresford for his leadership his kindness, and his patience. And I want to congratulate you on your retirement. I'd also like to commend the school board for their foresight in developing a succession plan, ensuring that Dr. Ostrike is set up for success. Lastly, I'd like to offer my congratulations to you as well, and I look forward to continuing to build my relationship with you. You could not ask for a better person to lead Carmel schools and our children in the next generation. Thank you.
Next on our agenda is consent. I am going to read through each of the items as a list more instead of all together, because that is what sort of the board had talked about ahead of this meeting. The first part of this consent agenda is personnel report, which usually includes any hiring, resignations, those sorts of things. Then we have claims, payroll. Payroll is pretty self-explanatory. Approval of gift applications. We have several generous gifts from the community to our different schools. And then we have the minutes from the executive session on June 10th, and minutes from the workshop session June 10th, and minutes from the regular session on June 24th. Do I have a motion to approve the consent items? Thank you, Katie. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any discussion? Anybody? Go ahead. We'll start on you today.
Yeah, I wanted to mention we have an item in here that addressed what I saw as an action item from last September, board meeting on substitute teacher pay. And Dr. Ostrike gave us a good presentation on that. And it was evident that we're pretty much on the low end of that across local districts. And we talked about it, and I think we gave a challenge to the administration to see if we can do something about that, to increase the substitute teacher pay, be a little more competitive, but realizing we're still very low in the Hamilton County. I think all districts are low. That it would make sense to see if we can do something better than that. These are pretty vital positions, I think everyone would agree with. And I'm glad to see that we're able to do something. We're gonna, it's not something I think normally available on the agenda to the public, but we're gonna see, as I understand it, a 6% across the board increase on the salaries, which equates to an average of about $5 an hour on the lowest pay. Correct me if I'm saying anything wrong. Per day. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. That's a big difference. $5 a day. We also have in that group the permanent substitute teachers, which I think are really vital. Not to say the others, they aren't all vital, but a lot of times we're able to get retired teachers back in to come in and continue, bring a lot of experience in maturity, and can help other teachers by bringing that in. And that's $5 a day too. So, and they did take a cut in pay this last year, rather significant. I know of one situation where the board saw it. An email came in, it was like $28 a day reduction, and I'm glad to see we're going to be able to give $5 a day back, but that's still a pretty low number. I was hoping that we could see more, and just thought I'd open up. We don't normally do a lot of discussion or any discussion on consent items, but this is a pretty important one as I see it, a response to a previous board action item. And I'd like to see what your thoughts were, or challenge you to see if we can do something more than that.
And in addition to that, the substitutes are available to qualify for an incentive for bonuses. Is that correct?
Typically, when you guys pass a consent agenda, and then we like highlight different pieces of it, and Dr. Ostrike was planning to highlight a little bit about that. So I think rather than waiting for the vote, I'll just go ahead and have him do what he was going to do, and might offer you a little bit of insight, if that's okay with you, Dr. Ostrike.
Yeah, absolutely. So within the consent agenda, based upon our research and our substitute teaching strategy, which has many different layers that we take a look at, some of which Mr. Brown shared with us with regards to permanent building subs. We also have special education substitute teachers. Our retired teachers, we also invite them to substitute teach for us, and they get a higher rate. So in looking at the recommendation at this time, we were going to raise it from $80 to $85 a day for a daily sub, for a special education sub, $90 to $95 a day, and for a retired teacher, $105 to $110 a day. So a $5 a day across the board for those positions. We have many other positions that are layered in, as we talked about. But at this time, this is our recommendation, and it is something we are constantly taking a look at. We are no longer the lowest in the county, so I'm very happy about that. But we also have layers within our pay structure for our substitute teachers that other districts don't have either. So this is based upon our strategy and research, our recommendation at this time, but certainly something we will always take a look at.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have a bonus plan. I think that's what you're alluding to there, which I think is a good incentive that if they work a certain number of hours in a semester, they get a cash bonus, which brings that rate up to something closer to the high end. And if I remember right, Noblesville is the highest pay for that.
For their daily, yes.
For their daily, but we're still, with our bonus, we're still below that. And I was hoping I'd be able to see us challenge and be the highest paid. And I think being competitive with the other school districts is normally a good practice in setting pay scales, but I also believe that all the school districts are underpaying this very vital position, particularly on permanent subs. Just wanted to say that. I'm glad we're doing something, and maybe next year we can come back and address it, see if we can do something more.
Yeah, okay.
Louise?
Yeah, Greg's not the only person that's really passionate about being able to be competitive in the substitute pay range or substitute pay. Maybe we can have a little bit of a workshop at a future session where we can talk about the funnel for substitutes, how that tends to feed or not feed full-time positions, what we feel like are our competitors for substitutes. Like, I would love to have more of a exhaustive presentation on substitutes if the other board members think that would be good, beneficial, informative, because I'm really interested in having more detail about that strategy.
Yeah, thank you both. In the meeting that Greg alluded to, I know we all were in agreement with increasing sub pay, and so that was why administration listened to our concerns and followed through with this. So we will now take a vote on this. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries.
President Coquet, if I could just say one more word.
Yes.
I'd like to thank Kelly Hackett, who I saw in the, oh, there she is. Kelly Hackett's with us. She is our district substitute teacher coordinator, and she works extremely hard each and every day to train our subs, to recruit, attract, and take care of them every single day. She's up very, very early getting our positions filled, so I just wanted to give a shout out to Kelly as well. Thank you, Kelly.
So while we're doing shout outs, I do want to thank, that was a very brief description Dr. Ostrike gave, but if you look at all the layers and incentive strategies that he's pieced together and his team, that's why we have the highest sub-fill rate in the county. And that's something that people need to know, one, and the other one is sort of we're proud of you and proud of your team that you're being able to do that. And they did that in very difficult hiring times, where it's difficult to find folks who wanted to work. So well done there, and thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Haskett, for your help. We will now move on to our action items. Our first action item this evening is the superintendent contract adoption. I am going to turn it over to Ms. Browning.
Yes, thank you. So I appreciate at our last board meeting that we made the announcement that we had selected Dr. Thomas Ostrike to take over as successor superintendent. I believe it was 2 days after that, his contract was posted online for public viewing. It was also posted in, I believe, the Reporter. Noblesville Times. There you go. So that everyone would have the opportunity to be able to view that contract. Tonight, we're going to vote on that contract, but I would also like to share a little bit more about the board's process in order to fill this vacancy. This spring, Dr. Beresford approached the board, letting us know his plans to retire at the end of the 24-25 school year. He let us know that if it was possible, if it worked out, if we found a candidate who was willing, that he would love to do a successor type position, which I think was very innovative. I know that Zionsville had done a similar thing with their last superintendent. That was something that the board definitely was going to consider, depending on if we had the right candidate and everything with that. With that, we then began to determine what we wanted in a superintendent. We outlined key priorities and desired qualities that we were looking for in a superintendent. I'm just going to share some of those with you. Our priorities were that they were representation, viewing the superintendent as a face of Carmel schools, both within local community and state level. That we were seeking a leader whose style is proactive, inclusive, and adaptable to the changing dynamics of educational leadership. We wanted to reinforce trust with our administrative team, mentoring emerging leaders and skillfully filling building level administrator positions. We encouraged someone who encouraged and promoted social and educational learning among students, and they act as a resource for legislators in advocating vigorously for public education. I was very thankful that I worked with a team who we were all able to talk about these qualities and determine what we wanted in our next superintendent. So those were our priorities, and then we had desired qualities that we were looking for. We wanted an active listener, someone who genuinely who engaged with feedback and perspectives. We wanted a visionary leader who foresaw future challenges and opportunities and guided the district with strategic foresight. Student-centered, who put the needs and well-being of students at the forefront of decisions, who was inspirational to motivate others to achieve more, setting a high standard of excellence, who was personable, approachable, and easy to communicate with, fostering a warm and inclusive dialogue atmosphere. We wanted a team builder who excelled at creating and nurturing a cohesive and collaborative team environment, an effective manager, manages district resources wisely and oversees operations effectively. We wanted a mentor, someone who provided guidance and support to nurture the professional growth of staff, a communicator who articulated ideas and plans clearly to various audiences, a collaborator who worked cooperatively with others, valuing teamwork over individual success, and who was accessible, who valued and actively sought out diverse perspectives from all levels of the organization. This board wanted the absolute best for Carmel Clay School students, the staff, and the community, and we were set out to look for that wherever that may be. We decided first to start internally. Like most great organizations, you want to make sure that you have emerging leaders within, and so we reached out to those who and said that we were looking to see about if anyone was interested. And we did have some people who were interested, and one of those was Dr. Thomas Ostrike. We then asked him to submit a portfolio for review. I was pleasantly surprised when I received a spiral-bound portfolio with beautiful tabs that included everything from his resume to his evaluations. He included all of his evaluations that were passed. He included his work with our new teacher evaluation system. Let me go to this district leadership tab, their school board presentations, weekly updates, everything that he wanted to make sure that he highlighted for the board. To say that we were definitely interested in an interview was an understatement. From then, the board then gathered together and we made sure that we had interview questions. We were holding him to a very high standard. We wanted to make sure that we found the best candidate. If he wasn't the best candidate, we would have moved on and looked for that next person. We held 2 interviews where we all had the opportunity to ask questions, to dig in, to get feedback, and then from there we decided what to do next. I'm very thankful that Dr. Ostrike, that you put up with all of our questions, that you answered them, that you were acceptable to coming back and answering more questions when we said that we may have more. I thank you to the team for being there, for asking the hard questions, for not, resting on our laurels, knowing that we're a great school district. We wanted the best, and we made sure that we found that. It was very exciting when you did meet our expectations, when you surpassed our expectations, and we know that you will be the best fit for Carmel Clay Schools and in the future. So I wanted to give a little bit of explanation regarding what our process was to look internally. If we didn't find someone internally, we would have, of course, gone further and done a search. We also spoke with the Indiana Association of School Superintendents, the Indiana School Board Association, to make sure that we were aware of current vacancies within the Indiana area. We wanted to make sure that we knew what the pipeline was for superintendents. We were very aware of kind of what that looked like. We wanted to make sure we did that. I'm very proud of the process that we did. I'm very confident that we did pick the right candidate. And it's a bonus with a cherry on top that he was in our own backyard. So I'm very excited for that. Anything else, Ms. Coquet, that you would like me to speak on?
I think that sums it up perfectly.
Okay.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much. That was perfect. So now we're going to move on to our motion. Can I have a motion to approve the superintendent contract adoption?
I strongly make a motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Louise. And discussion. I always start here. I'm going to start at you today.
Oh, okay.
And come this way, please. I'm going to start with you, Greg, and we'll come this way. I feel like I always pick you, go down this way, so I'm going to try you and then Katie, Louise, and
You're mixing it up.
I am mixing it up.
It's,
Yeah.
it's throwing me
Yeah.
off.
I'm sorry. Did you
Okay.
not want to go first?
No, I'll go
Okay.
first.
Okay.
I just
Okay.
wasn't paying attention. I
Okay.
was figured I had a little time.
No, your turn first.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to talk. I wanted to say two things. One thing is that I've got a lot of respect for Dr. Tom Ostright. He's got you saw a rather large portfolio we had to plow through, and he's definitely a highly qualified individual on pretty much, I think, every element you might can look for, and interviews very well, very popular, and I think I certainly think that there is absolutely no problem going forward with Dr. Ostright. The other thing I wanted to say was that we didn't follow the policy quite like what it alludes to. I'm sure there'll be some disagreement on that, but it does say that we shall include solicitation of applications from a wide geographical area. And we did not do that. We would have done that had there been some red flags. And I'll make it clear I did not see any red flags, so we didn't do that. But when I shop for anything, a lot of times I think I know what I want, but I take the time to go out, because we have time, to look around and just to confirm if there might be something I'm not thinking of or I might see better. I recommended we do that. We decided, the majority decided that we would not do that. There was so much excitement and support for Dr. Ostright that we didn't do that. But like I said, firstly is that I have a lot of respect for Tom, and I think he'll do well in that position. And he knows Carmel. That'll help us a lot. And I think he really understands the purpose of the school board and the governance purpose of the school board, and I think that's important. So I look forward to going forward with you on this endeavor.
Thank you, Greg. I was just going to take a quick minute before I go over to you, Katie. I was going to actually read that policy, if anybody's interested. You could look it up also. But I was just going to read it for you really quickly, just what Greg was referring to, so that you know. And in case you don't know, you can go to the CCS website, and if you click on the board and go to policies, you can read all of our policies that have been passed and amended over the years. This one talks specifically about hiring a superintendent. It said it may be aided in this task by utilizing such means as a committee of board members, which we did not do a committee, we did the whole board. The services of professional consultants, we chose not to spend that sort of kind of what we felt to be exorbitant amount of money, and participation of members in the community. Recruitment procedures shall be prepared in advance and shall include preparation of a written job specification for the position of superintendent, preparation of written specifications of qualification in addition to proper state certifications, preparation of informative material describing this corporation and its educational goals, where feasible, the opportunity for applicants to visit the school of this corporation, the requirement that each serious candidate for the position be interviewed by board members in a format that encourages him or her to express his or her educational philosophy, solicitation of applications from a wide geographical area, and consideration of all applicants fairly without discrimination on the basis of race, sex, age, religion, ethnic background, or other condition unrelated to the position of superintendent. I just wanted to put that in there. Again, you can go to our board website and go to policies and read those. Katie?
Yeah. Well, I talked a little bit about the process. I'll talk a couple things toward the end, and then I'll also talk about the policy. Another thing, and I was going through all the things that was probably one of my favorite parts of this process was that I was able to reach out to references. So Tom, you gave us a nice list of references, but then I reached out to a whole bunch of other people too. I wanted to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. And let me say that there wasn't bad or ugly. You are very well liked. You were very well renowned. Some of my favorites talked about people who said they had been in education for 30 years, and there was none higher, none best that they had come across to lead this. It's really nice to know that not only do those who you work with outside of the district, but I also talk to those who directly report to you. I emailed, I had phone conversations. It was really great to be able to hear the people who you're their boss, to know that you're of high caliber, high integrity, and that they are very excited to continue to follow in your path to help lead Carmel Clay Schools. So that was probably one of my favorite parts of the entire thing, was just to be able to hear, I had what I thought, but I wanted to make sure that we also talked to other people too. So it was really great to be able to hear your references. The policy. So Greg, yesterday we got an email from a community member asking about the policy, and then you were asking about it, which I was a little bit surprised because we hadn't talked about it before. But I sent you an email, and so I was going to just kind of share what I sent you in the email. And I sent it to the whole board. So board policy 1004 that you mentioned talks about employment of the superintendent and emphasizes the importance of appointing the best qualified and most capable candidate as superintendent. And our selection process, I believe, was meticulously guided by this primary objective. And there's about 7 points in the policy that talk about the process, and I also want to kind of outline what we did for those points. First one is preparation of recruitment procedures. Before initiating the search, we prepared comprehensive recruitment procedures that involved establishing criteria based on key priorities, essential functions, and desired qualities outlined by the board. I shared those with you a little bit earlier. We also, number 2 is preparation of job specifications and qualifications. We developed detailed job functions for the superintendent position along with written specifications of qualifications necessary for this role, which included proper state certification. Additionally, we prepared interview questions to gather more information regarding these specifications and qualifications. Informational materials describing our corporation and its educational goals are readily available. Should additional information have been required or requested, we would have fully prepared to provide those to any candidate. Opportunities for school visits. For internal candidates, opportunities to visit our schools and engage with our environment are inherent in their current role. Had we considered external candidates or moved to that point, we would have made similar arrangements to ensure that they could thoroughly understand our districts and needs. We had 2 interviews that we conducted with Dr. Ostrike, during which each board member had the opportunity to suggest and ask questions. These interviews encouraged the candidates to express their educational philosophy and demonstrate how their vision aligned with the district goals. While our policy does mention the solicitation of applications from a wide geographic area, it does not mandate it as a sole approach. Our internal candidate, Dr. Ostrike, met and exceeded all predetermined requirements and priorities established by the board. And given his exceptional qualifications, the board determined that an extensive external search was unnecessary. It is a common and effective approach for employers to first consider internal candidates, ensuring continuity, stability, before extending the search externally if needed. The final area is non-discrimination and consideration. All candidates were considered fairly without discrimination on the basis of race, sex, age, religion, ethnic background, or any other conditions unrelated to the position of superintendent. We ensured compliance with all applicable employment laws as we had the assistance of legal counsel who attended all executive sessions. And finally, in conclusion, I feel the board had adhered strictly to policy 1004 in the selection process for the new superintendent. We conducted thorough interviews, prepared job specifications, and considered the most capable and qualified candidate to lead our district. And I'm confident that that decision is Dr. Ostrike and is in the best interest of our students, staff, and community. I know that was a lot. Thank you for listening.
Louise.
Thank you. Yeah, so in the recruitment process, I think it's important to consider internal talent. I think it's important because we do, in organizations, we do succession planning. So my background is HR and talent development. We do succession planning for a reason. One of those reasons is we want internal talent to be inspired, feel valued, know that if they work hard, demonstrate that they care about those that they are working with, leading, and supporting, that they will be rewarded. And I feel like this is an opportunity to reward Dr. Ostrike's effort throughout the years in this district and in other districts, to acknowledge that we see that his contribution has been consistent, and this is an opportunity to just celebrate what he's contributed to this district, and also reward the fact that he is open to challenge and doing things differently. And I will say in the interview process, that was one of the things that was really important to all of us, especially me. Dr. B, I wasn't here last meeting because I was sick, but I value the fact that before I joined the board, our interaction initially was the fact that I was kind of upset, right? I was one of those parents that was upset. And you didn't shy away from that tough conversation. And I know that Dr. Ostrike is also open to being challenged. And I believe that for our district to get better and go to an even higher level, we need someone that is okay with being challenged. So I'm excited that you'll have this opportunity to fill this role, which has big shoes, and I'm just excited to work with you. So thank you.
Jennifer.
In my 35 years as a business owner, and many of those years working with hiring staff, this was definitely the most thoughtful and in-depth process that I've ever been a part of. We were meticulous in forming our criteria and our thought process. We went back and forth. We're a group of 5 people with very different backgrounds and different goals in terms of what we see important in public education. And so I think those were very reflected in the questions that we asked. And Dr. Ostrike was very intentional, very thoughtful, very calming, but also had, I thought, an innovative approach in answering our questions. And the only thing I am disappointed is we let him down a little bit by not giving you those tours that we were supposed to do. But it was very impactful early on in the process as we sat and spoke. And Louise, you gave some of those very same insights about the importance of nurturing talent, mentoring people within an organization so that they can rise to the top, especially when they are experiencing and enjoying such an excellent reputation. And some comments that you made, Dr. Ostrike, was how it's very important to you to interact, mentor, and be mentored, which is so important. So as we have said, this is very large shoes to fill, and we are here, people move here for the schools. We are products of having children in the schools, and so we look to you to continue this excellent vision that we have. So thank you, Dr. Ostrike, and congratulations.
Thank you, everybody. I'll be brief. I was just going to comment that in January, when I became president, Dr. Beresford was out, and Dr. Ostrike was the interim superintendent, kind of in charge. And so, this was before we knew that you had intentions of retiring. But it was, for me, I kind of saw firsthand. It was an on-the-job interview. There were a lot of things that happened in those those weeks. There was weather and a lot of issues at one particular school. And Dr. Ostrike, what I saw was somebody who handled it with grace and handled pressure and crisis very well. The other thing I was going to say, I was just going to read. I thought you might enjoy hearing just a few things. I did the other half of the references, and I spoke to the people who were a couple people who were on your reference list, and then someone who was not, and all our administrators at large districts in the area. One was retired, sorry, I take that back. But a couple of the comments were, I liked this one. He put the human in human resources, walked the walk, delivered news humanely. I don't know if anybody really understands how important it is for a superintendent of a large corporation to be able to do that. There's a lot of things that the superintendent has to hear and make decisions on a daily basis, and to do that humanely is of utmost importance to us as the board. Most of the comments were they've never heard anything negative about Dr. Ostrike, and the one that really got me was, I have zero reservations for him in this next chapter in his career. I just wanted to read some of those. Yeah, our team spent a lot of time together, not always getting along, but making the decision, doing the right thing, and then spending the time for what was right for this district, and having some really great interviews with questions that Dr. Ostrike did not back down from, and was not afraid to answer. So I'm really excited that we've gotten here and we've been able to do this as a board. With that being said, we will now take a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, if I may say a few words. First of all, happy 24th anniversary to my wife, Allison, who's in the crowd. I love you very much, and I appreciate all of the sacrifices both you and Colin make on a daily basis. I absolutely love this district, our students, our staff, our families, our parents. And it's because of you and the support you provide, Allison, along with Colin, that allows me to be the best I can for this community, because I love this community and I want the best for Carmel Clay Schools. So thank you very much once again. I am a student-first leader, and so I'd like to say welcome to Sean in the front row. Sean was a phenomenal baseball player as I was umpiring over with the Carmel Dads Club this spring. So Sean, I'm glad you're here. And also Micah, who I see all over the state of Indiana, because Micah and my son play tennis sometimes against each other in different tournaments. And so I want to thank our students for being here this evening. I also want to say a special thank you to the 1999 Carmel Clay Schools Teacher of the Year, Mrs. Ina Van Dyne, who is here tonight. Thank you for being here, and I appreciate all of your support, and I know Dr. Beresford appreciates all of your support. Also, thank you. I already mentioned Kelly Hackett in the audience, but Amy Shear, who is our HR coordinator, and I work very closely with her every single day, many hours, and she is one of the smartest, most committed people in this district, taking care of our teachers, administrators, and staff. So Amy, thank you for being here as well. We really appreciate you. And I also want to say thank you to Mrs. Browning for leading the search and doing such a tremendous job and challenging and making us feel very welcomed throughout the process. And then President Koke, on hiring your first superintendent, so well done. And the entire board, I appreciate all of your questions, and I appreciate your thoughtfulness, and I appreciate your work on behalf of kids. And I look forward to working with you in this transition. I'm grateful for the transition to spend this school year working side by side with you and side by side with Dr. Beresford. And I also special thank you to Mr. McMichael and Dr. Dudley. We have an incredible team of administrators and teachers and support staff here in the district, and I'm honored to be a part of it. And we try to take care of everyone each and every day. We have Emily here and Colleen who do such a phenomenal job each and every day. And so I'm grateful to the board. I'm grateful to the community. I look forward to the transition this year. And let's get ready and let's continue the phenomenal work that this district does each and every day. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, now we have to do some more action items that are
Follow that, Roger.
maybe not as exciting. I'm really sorry, Mr. McMichael. You have to
Just
follow.
don't give them a break to go home. So.
Okay, you must stay
Which
seated.
is what
No, I'm
usually
just
happens
kidding.
when I come up.
It's really some pretty cool things.
I told you.
Our next action item is the replacement of the Carmel High School tennis courts, which
This is
that
a-
is a very important thing.
It
If
is.
I've heard the conditions,
And
so.
a lot
Mr.
more
McMichael.
exciting than you might believe. But so, our tennis courts do need to be replaced. We knew that, and but we had them scheduled for an anticipated bond issue in 2026. And after last winter, and particularly, the paving has just gotten to the point where literally concerned that it has wide enough cracks and so forth that it would have some concern for safety, and it certainly is not does not meet the standards for the school district. So I am recommending that we move that up to starting this year, and the way we can do that financially is a part of the bond issue that the tennis, or not the tennis courts, but a part of the bond issue that we currently have for 2024 includes $7.5 million for technology. But that's not for 1 year, that we anticipate that for 3 years. And so the tennis courts, the early estimate, and we haven't started the design yet even, but the early estimate was around $5 million. And so my recommendation would be is that we would use $5 million of what has initially been designated for technology, knowing we won't need it until later, starting next year. And then later this year, I'll recommend selling a small $5 million, most likely $5 million general obligation bond to essentially replace that. And of course, then we won't need that money in 2026 when we would have done it. So financially, it all kind of works out, and we're fortunate to have the money already in hand. And so with your support, and approval, we can move forward and begin the replacement process this fall after the fall tennis season for the boys. And then it will be completed by about this time next year.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the replacement of the Carmel High School tennis courts?
So moved.
Thank you, Jennifer. May I have a second?
Second.
Oh.
Greg can have it.
Greg, any discussion?
Yeah, just a clarification that we had some discussion earlier on this. So this won't affect the timing of the technology budget.
No.
So we'll think we'll be able to get another bond in to replace it in time to stay on schedule.
Absolutely. It will have no impact on anything else,
Yeah,
including
thank you.
technology.
Jennifer?
Well, I know we have an excellent tennis program, and as a tennis player myself, you can't have bad courts because it certainly impacts the level of play. So I'm sure that Mike is really happy that you're going to be doing that. Yeah, very happy camper. So thank you. Thank you, Roger.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll now take a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Our next action item is the change orders for the Carmel High School Stadium South Support Building. Mr. McMichael.
Thank you. This is actually an add change order in the amount of $639. Generally, you're used to seeing change orders that are much larger than that. But the fact is the way the process works, we provide some contingency allowance for each contractor. In this case, the contractor that needs to do this work, we've used that contingency. So while it's a very small amount, we need board action to increase since they have a contract in the first place, we need to increase it, I'll bet, by $639, but that's the process, and so we need approval for the change order.
May I have a motion to approve the change orders for the Carmel High School Stadium South Support Building? Thank you, Katie. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Louise. Any discussion? The only thing I was going to say was that 3 of us toured it, probably what we were doing this time last week. Or no, it didn't take very long, but we got to tour all of the newer facilities, the high school facilities that are being worked on, completed / almost completed.
Yes.
So I just wanted to note that I think the board has really made a point that we want to see the projects that we're approving and spending district money on. We will now take a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Our next action item is the change orders for the Cherry Tree Elementary renovations. Mr. McMichael.
Thank you. This is a change order that's focused on the portables that we have currently located them at the school. On the one hand, we were very fortunate. We were going to lease portables, so a question was asked earlier, do we have the money for this, or was it unanticipated? And so the answer is we do have the money. It's a part of the project. Initially, we anticipated leasing portables, and we were going to lease 4, I believe, with no restrooms, basically as inexpensively as we could, knowing that there would be a real challenge if without the restrooms, the students have to go in and out of the building, or in and out of the portable into the building, which requires supervision and oversight for the children. And so we were very fortunate that a district in northern Indiana were finished with these, and they were, I think, only 2 years old, and they donated them to us. And we have 7 total units with restrooms. And so because the unit itself was free, we were able to take the overall money that we had assigned for portables and hook up the restrooms. And we knew we'd have electrical and so forth, but that was an additional cost because the other ones didn't have them. And but still well within the funds that we have available and that we anticipated. So it has worked out extremely well. And so we'd recommend your approval for this. There's actually another piece of it, by the way, about another $150,000 that will complete the whole thing, but we didn't have that ready to go yet.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the change orders for the Cherry Tree Elementary renovations? Thank you, Greg. May I have a second? Thank you, Katie. Any discussion? Katie.
I just want to comment on Roger and to your team and everything that I've heard from a couple in passing Cherry Tree parents who have really appreciated the communication that has been involved with this and the focus on security and all the different things that you guys are doing. So I just wanted you to say that I've heard that, and I want to make sure I share that on the kudos to you guys, because I know that obviously it's quite disruptive to their school environment. It's going to be very different, but you guys are making it so it's not so much, and so just thank you for that.
Well, thank you. There's on behalf of the staff, there's a lot of people involved in this process, and many of them, but we do take all of that very seriously, and so I appreciate the comment.
Greg?
Yeah, just a quick question. So by getting these portable buildings donated to us, we probably had some kind of savings, lease savings that we had planned to incur?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. We were going to spend as much as we're spending with 7 portables with restrooms as we're now spending. We were going to spend that on 4 portables without restrooms.
Right.
And so we're spending approximately near the same amount of money, but we're getting so much more. Most importantly, the students are getting so much, and the staff is getting so much better of a situation than they would have had with just 4 portables.
So it almost nets out to.
It does.
Yeah.
Nets out, and but unfortunately, we don't have unlimited resources, and so we take. This is an example where we we certainly take into consideration what we need or what we feel like we would like to have. But unfortunately, there's oftentimes a difference between the financial wherewithal and what we think we should do responsibly compared to what we'd like to have. And so we would have managed without the restrooms, but it would have not been nearly as good as, and it would have been safe and so forth. It's not to that level, but you can imagine everybody has to go, students and staff alike have to leave the portable in January and go in the building and then back out. And if they're, you know, a young elementary student, we certainly wouldn't have that be done without oversight. So we would have had some additional staff costs, by the way, that we haven't calculated in, had that been the situation. Yes, heck of a deal.
We will now take a vote on this. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Our next action item is the bid award for the Carmel High School gym LED replacement. Mr. McMichael.
Thank you. This was a part of what we referred to as miscellaneous projects that we have included in our 24 bond issue that we sold. And so we had very good pricing for this project and would recommend your approval. I think we had estimated, I think we had budgeted about $300,000. So now there's some additional costs beyond the contract cost for professional services and so forth, but we're well within the funds that we had allocated for this.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the bid award for the Carmel High School gym LED replacement? Thank you, Katie. May I have a second? Thank you, Louise. Any discussion? We will now take a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMichael. Our last action item is adoption of policy 2500, Teacher Appreciation Grant. Dr. Dudley.
Thank you. So this evening, I'm bringing before you the Teacher Appreciation Grant. The Teacher Appreciation Grant are funds that the state of Indiana give to all school districts each year to be distributed to teachers that receive highly effective or effective on their teacher evaluation rating. And so this policy needs to be updated by the board and approved annually by the board, stipulating the amount of funds that each teacher will receive. So in this policy, it talks about that the highly effective teacher would receive 25% more than the effective teacher. And that has been consistent for the last several years for our grant, but we do have to update that policy each year.
Thank you, Dr. Dudley. May I have a motion to approve the adoption of policy 2500, Teacher Appreciation Grant?
So moved.
Thank you, Jennifer. May I have a second? Thank you, Katie. Any discussion? Greg?
Just a question of clarification. So we're just changing the date in that policy. So we
Yes.
do this every year.
Yes. And we have to annually adopt it.
We will now take a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. That is the end of our action items. We're going to move on to reports. We will begin with a student data and staff and student services report. Dr. Dudley and Dr. Ostrike.
Great, thank you. So I'll start, and as you alluded to, both Dr. Ostrike and myself will be tag teaming this. We combined our reports together for this month. So our Carmel Clay Schools Educator Talent Development Model. That's what we're going to talk about. And I want to first start by giving you a very brief history of where we were and how we got to the point that we're at right now. So back in 2011, the Indiana legislature required that all school districts have either adopt a certified or a compliant performance evaluation system or develop one. So Carmel Clay Schools in 2012, we adopted the modified RISE. And RISE was the Indiana's version of the teacher evaluation system. It was a very quick turnaround. The legislature said it went into law, and the next school year we had to put something into place. So it didn't give any of the schools a very long time to do some professional development, to really look at different models out there because we need to become compliant from the law very quickly. And so one of the pieces that we did in 2014, we put RISE into place, but we know Carmel Clay Schools is very much we're constantly looking at that continuous improvement, and we knew we could do better. So in 2014, we put a committee together that included teachers, administrators, to do a program evaluation on our implementation thus far, to really study evaluation processes, to look at that talent development piece. And we spent a lot of time. We jokingly said this was the longest committee people were ever on. You had to retire to get off the committee. Because we had one of the teachers that was on it when the committee started. She was pregnant with her child, and he was then in second grade. So it was a very long committee. But as we looked at that committee, the committee came together and really looked at what was the research out there. They looked at our current implementation of that, and then they came with some recommendations on what did we need. So the first piece that they grappled with, the first question they grappled with was, what is the purpose of educator evaluation? Is it just to measure educator competency, or is it to develop educators, or is it a little bit of both? And as you can see, as they looked through the research, as they looked at the interest of how can we move learning forward for both our teachers and our students, what came out in the research is that we needed a system that focuses on that teacher development and then also has a measurement piece to it. But the sole focus is not just on the teacher competency. We really wanted to make sure that we had a talent development system that would provide that ongoing feedback, that would act as that professional development so that we could continue to hone our craft and continue to get better. And that's our whole growth mindset that we have. And so we really came where the emphasis was on the development, but it was based, we also got that competence piece. We're really looking at helping the educators to build that expertise. That was our focus. We wanted to make sure that we could build our expertise. So as the committee came together and they looked at the interest, they looked at the research, they came together and we actually built an evaluation, a teacher talent development model. And we called it TTSD, Teacher Talent Development Model. And we developed a really great model. We started piloting that model with teachers. It checked all of the boxes that we needed as we were looking at, we wanted to have a system that provided that ongoing feedback. We wanted to make sure that we had a system that teachers could grow with it, that we could look at not only what was happening with the teachers, but then also with the students and as the student achievement, and using those leading indicators on what's happening with that student achievement each and every day, not just waiting for the lagging indicators or waiting for those indicators after the fact of the learning. And it checked all of the boxes except for one. The one piece that we found as we started implementing it is we could not take it to scale. We did not have the amount of time that it took to give teachers that ongoing feedback. It wasn't a manageable piece. And so it was a great system, but as we looked at continuing to implement and adding more and more educators to that, we didn't have the capacity within our day to be able to provide that ongoing feedback. So we went back to the drawing board and we look back at the research that we did, and we talked about what are the pieces that we need, what did we really like about this piece, and what are the pieces that we need to continue to get better at and have a manageable system that we could make sure that all educators could benefit from it at the same time. And so that's where we came back to looking at Marzano's Focused Teacher Evaluation System. And it's called FTEM, so it's the Focused Teacher Evaluation Model that really looks at helping teachers to develop in their practice. It starts with focusing on that standards-based system, looking at in every classroom so that we can have that guaranteed viable curriculum. So the instruction that we have happening in third grade at Woodburn Elementary is very similar. It's based on the same standards, the same evidence as we have at Town Meadow in third grade. Our students have that guaranteed viable curriculum regardless of what school they're going to, in focusing on those standards and really making sure that we have the rigorous instruction in all of our classrooms. It's also a model that looks at the student results. This is a model that's very unique, whereas RISE evaluation system, the evaluator would go into the classroom, they would observe the teacher, they would spend a lot of time scripting everything that was happening in the classroom, and sometimes they didn't even look up to see what was happening because they were so busy listening and trying to catch it all. And they were looking at what the teacher was doing. They never were looking at how the students were responding. This model is very unique, and not only is it looking at the practices that are happening with the teacher, but then it has the desired effect of how are the students responding to that? How are the students learning? How are we checking for that understanding throughout those lessons? Not waiting until we get to the chapter test or the final exam, but we want to make sure that we are looking at the student's achievement throughout and then adjusting our instruction based on that student achievement. And that's where that has those leading indicators rather than those lagging indicators. And then looking also at a system that scaffolds that instruction. So teaching is a very complex task. There's lots that happen to this. This takes very thin slices of teaching with the different elements. It gives the teachers a roadmap of guidance, and we guide our professional development around that to help teachers to really understand how they can continue to get better at the art and science of teaching. And so we're looking at both those pieces, and it gives them a really great roadmap in those protocols where they can have the conversations with their teams in their grade levels or in their subject grade levels at the secondary schools. They have the conversations with their administrators on what it is that is happening now and how can we continue to get better, because it's that continuous improvement that we want to get better. And then the last part of that is it really empowers all of our educations where we have a system of that common language across the district. We have common tools. It's based on a continuum. It's scored on a scale to really help grow that expertise. So it checked all of the boxes. And so in 2022, we started implementing the FTEM model, or the Focused Teacher Evaluation Model. And so that model has 4 domains to it, as you would say. The components include first a planning domain, where you start with looking at the standards and having very intentional planning on what's happening in the lesson. But the best laid plans are not any good if they're not implemented properly. And so the next piece to that is that standards-based instruction. So looking at those instructional strategies, making sure that we're including the rigor. There's a lot of pieces we talk about having the rigor and that just right instruction for each one of our students all day long. And what does that look like? Having those very high expectations for all of our students is another important component of that. And with that, making sure that the classrooms and the schools have that learning environment, what's conducive to learning. Making sure that we have positive relationships. The teachers are building positive relationships. Students are building positive relationships with each other, and that collaborative aspect in that learning, because learning is a very collaborative piece. And so that's another piece of those conditions. Making sure that we're using that feedback for students, and then also using the feedback students are giving back to the teacher in how they're responding to the work. So that's another piece of the conditions for learning. And then the last domain is that professional responsibilities. So those are all of the other pieces and all of the other responsibilities that teachers have in addition to teaching each and every day, all day long in front of students, but communicating with parents, partnering with parents in the education, attending meetings, helping to develop individual education plans for students or individual language plans for our ML students, really participating in professional development. All of those other pieces come under that professional responsibility. So those 4 domains tie into There's 23 elements altogether, and you can see those 4 domains there on the screen and the different elements underneath. And so we focus on those different domains. As we started implementing this in 2022, we started with our elementary, because one of the lessons learned when we had to implement RISE so quickly is we had to do it so quickly we didn't have time to really be very thoughtful on the implementation plan. So we started with our elementary teachers, and we started with just 9 of the elements that we actually scored on here. And then last year we brought on our middle school teachers, and then this coming school year we're bringing on the high school to implement that, and we have a very thought out implementation plan. So one of the pieces, the major focus is on improving the learning. However, we also need to make sure that we're getting that evaluation score for all of our teachers. And so Dr. Oestreich is going to share the information about the evaluation scores.
So while the goal is to help our educators build that expertise, as we talked about, and have them grow and continue on that continuous improvement, as well as ensuring that we're focused on what the student is learning and what they know, not just did the teacher teach it, but are the students engaged, and are they learning, are they meeting the standard, and are they taking their learning to the next level. Indiana code requires us to have an evaluation score for every teacher. Additionally, per Indiana code, and I have it up there, we have to present the results in aggregate to the school board every year. And so this is, I believe, the 5th year I've been doing this to the board. And our percentages are very similar as they are to last year with regards to the number of teachers that are highly effective, and needs improvement. And so that will continue to change a little bit as we add additional elements and implement the focused teacher evaluation model and add those elements in there. That may change a little bit, but right now, this is where it came out as we are implementing it at this time.
And so some of the really positive changes that we've seen over the last 2 years, and then we'll continue hopefully to see, is that first, that guaranteed viable curriculum, making sure that we have that focus on the standards. The state looked at developing those essential standards and focusing on those standards in our instruction each and every day. So when you're being observed, the evaluator goes in, and the first thing they look at is what is it that the students are learning, and what standards is it based on. And you might see them on their phone looking up the standards on if I'm in a 6th grade class, science class, what standard is this? Is this a 6th grade science standard? Because our principals do not know every single standard of all of the classes in their school, but they have the tools to look those up. Also, that clarity for learning. For one of the biggest outcomes, and we focused on it, and the research is very clear, making sure is the teacher aware of what are the students learning, and are the students aware of what it is they're learning? How are they focusing on the critical content? That piece really drives that learning and helping them to focus on that critical content. And so you may see evaluators or also visitors in the classroom, some of the questions we go in and we'll ask the students, not what are you doing, but what are you learning? And so we don't want to hear they're doing math or they're doing this worksheet, but what are they learning? And then some other follow-up questions we ask is, why are you learning this? Talking about the relevance of that learning, and that really lends itself to when the students are very clear on why they're learning what they're learning, it really helps them to that motivation piece of it. And then the other question that our educators, when they go into classrooms, may ask students is, how do you know that you've learned it? And it's not, how does the teacher know that you've learned it, but how will you know? So really looking at what are the learning intentions and what are those success criteria. That's a big outcome and a big shift that we've seen that has really helped to focus our students on the critical content.
And I also may add, Dr. Dudley, those are 3 questions that parents can ask their children when they come home from school every day. And so they're going to tell you, I'm learning math, or I had English today. But no, what are you learning? Why are you learning it? And then they should be able to specify, they should actually be able to tell you what standard they're working on in each of their classes. And if they don't, then let's ask some further questions there. But this should really enhance that parent communication aspect as well.
And another really positive outcome that we've seen in the last 2 years is the continuous conversation on teaching and learning. It really has shifted that focus into improving the practices that are happening in the classroom. Our principals and our teachers, they're reporting to us that yes, they're having those conversations because it's not a, I came in, I evaluated you, this is your score, but it's more of a conversation of, okay, this is what I saw, and now what evidence do you have that maybe I did not see? And it might be student evidence to say how they did based on the different elements. So it's an ongoing conversation, not a gotcha piece of here's your score and that's that. So you are focusing on that continuous improvement. And then also the biggest goal is teachers reflecting on their own practice. Because what differentiates a really good educator with a great educator, in my opinion, is an educator that really can reflect on their own practice and look at what went well, what do I need to improve upon, how can I do this better, how can I continuously get better. And this whole system is built on helping teachers to become even more reflective than they already are. So it's not just something that's done to them, it's something that they work together. It's a very collaborative system. And so it's been really quite a journey that our teachers have been on, our administrators, working with Dr. Ostrike, and this ongoing piece. But it has been very exciting. Our teachers are excited about it. Our high school teachers, they're new to it, so they're not so sure about it. But as they listen to their colleagues in middle school and they listen to their colleagues in elementary school, lots of great ongoing conversations as we continue to get better, because that's what we're all about. So with that, what questions might you have?
I could start. So yeah, I'm excited about the new model. Thank you for sharing the overview. I'm excited that this is an up level from the last model that we used. I'm going to do some research on FTIM. That's the acronym. Just some questions on some of the areas that I think you said are kind of, I don't know, key features. One, in evaluating interactions with parents and that relationship that happens. So I just wanted some specificity on that. So how does that vary from the last model, or what does that look like? And how are we evaluating it or measuring that with our teachers?
So one of the pieces, so in the RISE model, there were no elements or anything that talked about interactions with other stakeholders. In the FTEM model, under professional responsibilities, there's maintaining relationships with colleagues, maintaining relationships with other colleagues. So that piece is measured in that area of how are they, communicating with parents? How are they partnering with those parents? That piece is measured in that element of professional responsibilities.
Okay, great. So then the way that it's measured, is it you ask the teacher, or is it you send a survey to parents, but how do we measure it?
So typically we don't send surveys to parents. It's what has been observed, over the course of the year. It could be teachers providing evidence of that. It could be also just evidence that you've collected, where it could be very positive evidence. It could be evidence that may not be as positive. So there's a lot of different data points that you might look at, where you're looking at how are you interacting with other stakeholders.
Okay.
But we don't send out surveys to parents each year, per se.
Okay. And then I like that there was, I think you said it was added, are students not only learning but or performing, but are they engaged? I like that a lot, because I feel like that is the differentiating factor a lot of times of whether students either learn or enjoy their experience or decide to pursue something after having been in a class, as if they felt engaged. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
And I would say the engagement pieces of it, and also the relevancy. That helps the students to really connect to see why is this relevant? Why is it that I need to learn this? So that helps too with that engagement and that motivation.
Yeah, Doctor, as you were saying that, I was already writing in my notes the questions to be asking my son when I pick him up from school. So
Very good. I look forward to the
Got it.
responses.
Got it.
Anybody else? Greg, you look you're
So, we rolled it out with the elementary schools in the middle. Now it's going to go to the high school. And have we learned anything along the way as we were practicing it or prototyping it?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we tell the middle schools that they're benefiting for all of the things we learned from the elementary, and the high school will benefit even more from the 2 years of. So really, one of the pieces as we started with the elementary, we thought we could. Another really great piece of this is that as we fully implement it, there's a goal part of it where the teachers will develop a goal. The first year we rolled it out with the elementaries, we had them all set a goal based on one of the elements. One of the things we learned is, though, we didn't know all of the elements in and out to be able to do that. It was way too overwhelming. So then we took the goal aspect out of it for now. We'll come back to that. But rather than overwhelm everybody to learn all 23 elements, we decided we wanted to build upon their knowledge of the elements before then they can determine, where do I want to start with my goal? So that was a big lesson that we learned, that at first the elementary teachers were very overwhelmed with that. The middle school teachers benefited from not having to be overwhelmed right away in the beginning with that goal piece. That was one piece.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense to try things on a small scale and make adjustments as you learn. So what are the reservations you're seeing from the high school teachers as you're getting ready to roll it out?
Right now, we're not really seeing reservations with it. We're starting slow with the high school, where we've done the training last spring for the administrators and the department chairs. All of the people that will be observing spent 3 days in training. And then at what we'll do this year is then we will roll out each of the pieces where it's a train the trainer, where we'll do the professional development with the administrators, the department chairs, and then they'll go back with their departments and teach them about the different elements and stuff. So far, we're not hearing reservations from the, I think they're they're excited about having a system that is not just focused on the final score, but really looking at how can we continue that, improving our teaching and learning.
Thank you.
I remember when you first brought this to us, introducing the Marzano technique and how highly regarded it is, and how people were excited that there was going to be more buy-in, and it had a more value-based system on different types of learners and different types of environments. So many people saw it, although it's always scary to implement a new plan, and since this directly affects your pay, job, final employment record, I think people seemed excited about the idea that their skill set would be challenged and encouraged, and it's a growth model. So those were all important. We had a full presentation on it when we were first considering it.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. McMichael will present the monthly financial update.
Doesn't completely hurt my feelings, but I would appreciate if I could go before Amy and Tom, either one, anybody but me. All right, so this is our financial report for ending June 30th, which ends our fiscal year, so we pay particular attention to this particular report. And so I want to point out that starting with our education operations and our operating referendum and then our rainy day funds, we usually we'll start with the ending cash balance, and you'll see it's up to 5.5 million. And if you were to compare that to last year, it was 11.5. So that's a meaningful increase, and it's right where we would have anticipated, right in the range. And first, we moved money from our operations fund into the rainy day fund by design, because you remember that we're wanting to increase our reserves to about 12%. And so we started with we've had them for years and years. Our minimum amount was 8%, which is where we tended to be. We really would hover and sometimes go below that. So we wanted to get it up to about 12, and we're well on our way to doing that. Part of this increase then is as I said, because we by design, we move funds from our operations fund to the rainy day fund, but also by design, we held back money when we increased salaries in 22, 23, so that it enabled us to give a 1% raise this year. And that's because, as you know, we get the majority of our funding from the state through a formula, and the state significantly funded the first year of the biennium, much more so than the second. So we were able to, in the end, we gave a 3% raise in the first year, 1% to all of our employees except teachers, where we gave a 2% increase. And we did that by making some downward adjustments on some of our staff. And we had great discussion about that. We didn't do it unilaterally, but so that enabled us to fund. And so, but this balance also has planned reserves, because this year will cost more than the state increase in funding this year. So by the end of the biennium, we should be about even in terms of spending the amount of money that we were provided by the state. We just spread it out, not evenly, but we spread it out over the 2 years. And so we continue to be on track, and we're getting close, I think, in terms of our cash balance. And this is, again, would be a little misleading, because it's going to be higher this year, likely higher this year than what it will be next year by design. So we may come down a little bit next year is what I'm saying. But we're hovering around the 10 or 10% or so. And so we're getting closer each year, and have gotten closer each year over the past three years or so, to gradually increasing our cash reserves. Then in our operating fund, we ended, this is, as I always share with you, it's a little less predictable, because it's not primarily salaries. That's a large part of it, but it's also construction and maintenance and those kinds of things, which are not necessarily, the expenditures are not as even across the year. And the other thing I should have said back here is, as Greg has pointed out before, you'll notice that in the transfer from other funds, we did transfer 8.8 million, again, by design, but the expenditures were coming every month. So it had a way of, lowering our cash balance from what it would have been. And so by design, we make this transfer. We're making this transfer twice a year, and this was being at the end of the fiscal year. We made it in June, and so that brought the balances back up, and you can see the difference as we go through the progress through the year. So now back to our operating fund. We ended this June with 5.5 million, and last year I believe we had 6.7. So it's in the range. As I said, this fund's not as credible in terms of tracking, with the prior year, because of the nature of the expenditures. But we're in good shape with our operating fund as well. And then finally, the last fund is our rainy day fund. You see there's very little activity here, almost none. And by design, this is truly, we see this as a rainy day fund. So if we have a rainy day, and we've had some, unfortunately, in the past where we get kind of no notice, for example, when if the state says, sorry, we're not going to be able to send you the amount of money that we told you we were going to send you, and that we then made commitments with, uh, primarily with salaries. So there are occasions where we have these significant unexpected expenses. And that's what's intended really for the rainy day fund. But we do include it as a part of our cash reserves because it is available to us. So with that, I'll respond to questions if you have them.
Anybody? No questions today? Oh, Greg has a question.
I'll
Come
ask
on.
that question. I mean, after
Thank
all
you.
that effort you put into it, you deserve a question. I think I understand this. So when we're able to fund the rainy day fund, it could be sourced from either operations or the education fund.
It can come from any fund,
Any
actually.
fund.
In this case, it's not likely we would take education funds and put it in the rainy day fund, because there we're just trying to keep up with um, our salaries and which about at least 95% of that fund is spent on salary and benefits. So we're not likely to have uncommitted funds there by design. The operations fund, it's not, we don't always have uncommitted funds there either. However, we found ourselves in a position where we did and still do to some extent, most of which came as a result of actually a shortage of staff, and such as bus drivers, for example. So financially, when we couldn't hire as many bus drivers as we needed, we had a major problem that we've talked about before, but we also spent less money. And so that we wouldn't have chosen that as a way to, have cash available, but that is what happened. Well, then as we responded to that shortage by creating, additional routes for the drivers, we, and of course, pay them more for that. So we soon, brought that back up, and so now we're paying fewer people more money and to do more work. And so that's an example, but and this is in the context of a fund that's about it's about $50 million altogether. So when we transfer $2 million to the rainy day fund, that's not insignificant, but I'd want you to have it in perspective of the size of this fund. And so that's what we've been doing, and we're about to have to reach our goal, and we're also about finished with having excess revenue. And so it's going to, and of course, that's more than just accident. We that's part of our financial planning that we work with, because we don't have need to just have money sitting around. If we didn't need it, we'd lower the tax rate, and I think we show a good history with being sensitive to our taxpayers, and so other than being financially responsible and having at least, sufficient funds, we think, for reserves. And by the way, our reserves and what we think is sufficient is less than any number of other districts. So we try to manage that with not having, excess money in reserves or in the bank, if you will. So it's just part of what we do in terms of managing the finances.
Just a quick one. So once we have funds in the rainy day, can it be used for what we would normally fund out of education, the education fund?
Yes, it essentially can be used for anything you want to
Anything.
use it for.
Okay. And is there a target balance you're trying to maintain in the rainy day fund?
Not specifically in that fund, no. We're trying to get to a 12%,
Overall.
about a 12% balance. And when I say about, if it was 13, I wouldn't, have a real need to feel necessary to reduce it. But we wouldn't expect to get it up to, 15, 20%. That, in my mind, in my opinion, that would be more reserve cash than we need. And so it can be used for any purpose that you want. And it comes, by the way, from under the statute. It's available. It is funds that are not what the state refers to. They're not encumbered, so they're not committed to something else. And so if you get to the end of the year, as we have, and have available, and there's not a limit. There is a limit. You can't do this, limitlessly, but we're well under the amount that we could transfer if we had it available to transfer.
Just for
Thank you.
clarification, so when you keep talking about 12% cash balance, is if a school corporation has 12%, then we'll get very good bond ratings.
Yes.
And Standards and Poor's that determines that. And then the better your bond rating, then you're going to save taxpayers a lot of money when we do a construction project or when we, do something like a cherry tree. And so the advantage of that is important. Other piece about a rainy day fund is that all of a sudden unexpected things happen. And Roger's pretty protective of the rainy day fund because we typically would only do something with the rainy day fund that's like one-time expense. Like we wouldn't hire a bunch of people out of the rainy day fund because it's going to run out. You do that where there's funding streams like from the state legislature. So kudos to Roger because he's a master at keeping everything balanced. Building that cash balance so we can really have the best bond rating that we can get so that we can achieve the things that and keep the standard of Carmel Clay Schools facilities in particular at the level it needs to be at, while at the same time never raising the tax rate. So that's a win-win-win. So
and to put it in perspective, it's about less than a month and a half of cash reserves. We obviously are a very large school district and spend millions dollars a year. So if you think of it on a personal basis, if you had a savings account that would cover you if you lost your job or lost revenue coming in, it's a month and a half. It's not a year and a half. And we had a situation years ago where, as I alluded to, where the state said we just don't have the money. The economy's, we had a recession, the economy's down, and we don't have that money comes from tax dollars as well, and they simply didn't have the money to provide. And so it was several $1 million when $1 million back then was a lot of money. so that's an example where because we had sufficient reserves, we didn't, and you're spending 95% of your funds on salary. So you can't make that up without having a layoff or reducing staff. And when, that's just a kind of a nice way to say you're going to take services away from children. And so we don't want to do that. So
yeah, that was January 2009, if you want to know.
yeah, there you go. I try to forget that part, but so.
Thank you. Our next report is the superintendent's report from Dr. Beresford.
All right. First off, thank you for the FTEM report. There's certain things that are happening curricularly here. Like our math curriculum is focusing on actual problem solving and comprehension. Our reading now is focused on comprehension and using brain research and the research of how to teach a kid to read. There's a lot of exciting things happening, and FTEM is one of those that can be really transformational for the district because so for the history of education, and it has always been kind of a rating or kind of if the teacher's on time, if they, this is focused on instruction. It's on teaching and learning, and it's finally aligned with what teachers actually do during the day, instead of being some random rating of some kind or another. And it actually works very personal, teacher to teacher, on what is an area they need to improve on and how to do that and how you can measure that. And so to me, it's really, really exciting that because it changes the conversation. You heard Amy talk about that a little bit. Instead of what's my rating to, okay, what are we going to work on? And the teachers are just as involved with it as the administrators. Like, well, I really want to work on my differentiated instruction. I really want to work on my scaffolding. And those kinds of discussions is what should be happening. And so it's really exciting, and I'm looking forward to see what the results of that's going to be in the lives of kids and parents in particular, because that communication piece is going to be, I think, vastly improved as well. I also really appreciate the implementation of it, because a great system can fail with poor implementation. And you guys are being so thoughtful about that and really, like what they explained about how they start by working with the people who are going to be the evaluators, because the evaluators have to know exactly what they're doing and how the system works. And then that way they can communicate accurately to the teachers who are going to be evaluated. And then that conversation that they have to how are we going to improve the talent is really, really special. So I'm nerding out big time during that presentation because it's really, most folks say, well, this is taking too long. Well, take the time now because it's going to pay off at the other end when it finally gets fully implemented. So great job and keep plugging and boy, it's getting exciting because we're now at the high school level and love what's happening with that. So I throw that in there. I also wanted to do a shout out for the visits. Listen to Roger talk about money and all the different things that go on. And we do a lot of approving of things, but when you actually walk in the building and see where the marching band's going to be able to get out of the rain and the cold and work on their marching show, or you go and see where the fine arts kids were all packed together like sardines. Now there's space for them to dance and sing and do drama and play instruments and just it's really inspiring that we're kind of out of the 1989-92 zone now and we're actually into 2023, 24, 25. So appreciate that visit. We were at Creekside today for the transportation opening ceremonies and if you ever get to hang around with a bunch of bus drivers, they're like the coolest community. Great people to hang around with. But went to Creekside, and of course, Creekside took all the pavement, the backside where all the kids come in and out of the buses was really shabby and had a lot of broken concrete. That's all been redone as part of our work here, and beautiful. And it's going to get even better as they get that finished up too. So a lot of exciting things going on in the district. But my report, I'm going to start out nerding out again. So I won't apologize because it's so cool. You guys know about AP exams? So we give a lot of AP exams. And as a matter of fact, this year we gave 4,546 AP exams. 4,000. Last year we were just under 4,000. This year we're at 46. 2,145 students took an AP test. They took, and a lot of them took more than one. We were under 2,000 last year. So every year for the last 5 years, we've increased the number of kids who've taken these tests and also the number of exams that have been taken. So that's pretty remarkable. But wait, AP students with scores of 3+. So AP World, if you get a 3, 4, or 5, you can get advanced placement in college for college courses to save you some money, and it just proves your scholarship. This year we had 1,975, so almost 2,000 kids scored a 3 or better. And so the total percentage, let's just talk percentages. So out of all those kids that took that, 92% of the kids who took an AP test this year, 92% scored a 3, 4, or 5 and are eligible for advanced placement. And that's just crazy. That is just crazy good. And it just kind of blew me away. And every time I get this email from Valerie Peel, the assistant principal at the high school who does all the testing, and she just always loves to send me this report because she knows I like to nerd out on it. And she said, this year we gave over 500 more exams to just over 200 more students than last year. And once again, our percentage of students scoring 3 or higher on the AP exam went up. And she had an exclamation mark and had it in all caps. And then across all 4,546 exams, 4,112 were a 3 or higher, and that percentage. That is just unbelievable. She said, I especially want to highlight AP African American Studies, which in its first year saw all 19 students who took that class got a 3 or higher. And they had an average score of 4.42. So that means that they were tenths of points away from a 5, which is just unbelievable. AP Seminar, which had 495 of 500 students in that course scored a 3 or higher. And so this is my favorite sentence, though. Our kids and teachers and the families who support them are simply the best. So love that info coming from Valerie at the high school. I'm very, very proud of our kids' hard work. 4,500 exams is just unbelievable. Okay, going to move on to iLearn came out this week, and I appreciate this speaker talking a little bit about standardized tests because it's really inappropriate to use standardized test, a one-shot snapshot of a student test to compare like our district with other districts, or to compare one school with another school. The appropriate use of a standardized test that takes a snapshot is to identify kids who may need help and who may need extra support. And so it's never an end-all or a scarlet letter or you're brilliant. It's just a snapshot in time where we see how's this kid doing, and is there anything we need to do to support that kid. But at the same time, our kids did really well, and so just proud of their efforts, the teachers' efforts, and just a shout out to all the efforts it takes that, because it really is kind of like Valerie said with the AP test. It's about students that are ready. It's about teachers who have skills and talents and are getting better. And then it's also about parents that are supportive and engaged in their education. So it's really, really good. Now I'm going to give a shout out to the tech team who went into immediate action last Friday when the CrowdStrike computer glitch hit. And we had 55 CCS servers affected by that. And our team had to come in and go to work, and they got 54 of them patched up and running on Friday. And so you're probably asking what happened to 55. So it had to be rebuilt completely, which went on all day today. We had one of our guys rebuilding that server. So everything was patched up and running, and then just an awesome response to what was a difficult surprise challenge. And it took the whole team really getting busy in a hurry. This time of year, you think, oh, we're not in school yet. Well, teachers are getting after it. They're getting ready. And of course, administratively, a lot going on as well. So it was really important for them to jump on that and get it done. And I'm real proud of their efforts as well. I will also say that I wanted to throw a little shout out to our Olympians. We have some Olympians who are going to start on Friday. And we've got, of course, the Shackles. Aaron and Alex are going to be in the Olympics and swim for Team USA. And also Drew Kibler, who's a graduate. And then Rajiv Varan, who's going to be playing, Carmel High School graduate and professional tennis player, will be playing in the Olympics as well. So we've got 4 Greyhounds that are going to be, representing the United States of America, and that's pretty special. So, tune in. Got a lot of Greyhounds on the field there, so that's good. My bell ringer is Dr. Ostrike. So I just want to congratulate both Dr. Ostrike and, of course, his wife Allison back there, because she's here with us tonight. And then her son Colin couldn't be with us tonight. He's out of state. But just congratulations, because I know you can't do this alone. And it's important to have the team Ostrike, and just very, very proud of your hard work leading to this point. As someone who's not only worked alongside Dr. O, but I've watched him grow over the years. We were competitors a lot of the time, and when I'd see him at an event, I'd go, ugh, Ostrike's here. But as we get together, in the world of education, it's a pretty small team, and we got to know each other pretty well. We did a lot of work with universities to get kids, the university folks, to kind of figure out what we needed and what they needed, and the kind of skill sets the kids needed to go. But I've just watched this guy grow over the years, and he is a leader in the education profession in the state. He presents at IASBO, which is the Indiana Association of School Business Officials. He presents in most of the professional organizations, one place or another. People call Carmel Clay Schools to talk to Dr. Ostrike because they need help. And so it's good to see you growing and a leader in the profession, and I'm really thrilled to know that Carmel Clay School is going to be in good hands for years to come, because while the old guy is rolling out, the young guy's got a lot of years left on him. So, and that's becoming more uncommon in school districts across Indiana. I think the average life of a superintendent is like 3 years before there's changes made. So you have opportunity to have more than a decade and maybe two. So I think that's important. I've also witnessed his leadership firsthand, and the only thing bigger than his intelligence and understanding of leading a large school district, which is a very specific skill set. There's a lot of good superintendents out there in different settings. I would venture to say that probably some large school superintendents might not be very good in little school districts, and at the same time, it's pretty challenging to move to larger districts. But there's a lot of pieces to all that. But he has a keen understanding of leading a large school district, and the other side of that is that he's got the heart for every kid and every student. Our theme this year is Love Where You Lead, and Dr. Ostrike truly loves Carmel Clay Schools. Let me say that slower. He truly loves Carmel Clay Schools. If you see him anywhere, he's got on blue and gold. He's got a Greyhound or some other one of our mascots on his quarter zip. So he loves Carmel Clay Schools. And he loves where he leads, and he understands that it takes a collaborative team of educators, parents, students, all working together to make the magic happen that's Carmel Clay Schools. And so I couldn't be happier to be passing that baton, just down the way here, so to Dr. Ostrike. I also want to congratulate the board on choosing a perfect leader for Carmel Clay Schools moving forward. You thoughtfully took on the responsibility of finding the next leader for the district with a professional process, due diligence like no other. Most people just call the references that are on the reference sheet of the VITA, right? These guys, I'm pretty sure they talked to neighbors you had when you were a little kid. I mean, they were digging deep. I had people calling me and asking me if it was a legit reach out because they thought it was like a phishing, a phishing email or something like that. You really did the due diligence side of that, and also used common sense, which is really, really important. You didn't look for the shiny penny, and for those of you who don't know what the shiny penny is, it's somebody that lives more than 25 miles away from your school district, and they come in and they put on an incredible show and interview process, and then you find out later that they're not really what you thought they were. And you went past the shiny penny, and you looked for an outstanding leader that was already in our midst. Many districts will wait and for an opening to occur, so they wait till there's till the old guy rolls out, and then they look for the best available, at that point in time, who's available. And I really loved your study and talking to the IAPSS and a lot of the organization, because there was over 40 superintendent openings for this school year, over 40. So the pool of superintendents is extremely shallow right now. And so it's just not a great strategy, I think, anymore. And Zionsville was very successful with it, which was, I congratulate you for paying attention to what's going on around and what people are doing. You took the succession plan approach, and that would ensure a seamless transition. When we talk about that, it's like when I took this job, it took me probably close to a year before I understood how Carmel Clay Schools operated. Amy and bet you guys were really tired of me by the end of that first year, because I had so many questions and trying to figure that out. And so the learning curve is really, really pretty steep if you just walk into a situation. Where a succession plan, it's going to be walking along, and it's going to be a gradual release of responsibilities and information. And there shouldn't be a hiccup of any kind, which means that you don't have to do leftovers for a year. And then also you can go right from your plan straight out, which is going to be fantastic. So anyhow, congratulations again on a job well done. There's only 4 things that board members really have a job to do. And one of the biggies, if not the biggest one, is to choose the superintendent and then to evaluate them, and I would add probably to support them, because the superintendent job is to not let you fail, and your job is to not let superintendent fail. And so kudos to you. You've done a wonderful job. And with that, I will just remind everybody in the committee there are 9 weekdays left before the first day of school. So sorry, kids. Enjoy your last 9 days. Sorry, Micah. Enjoy your last 9 days of summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Beresford. That was kind of included in some of my announcements. Next week, August 1st and 2nd, are teacher contract days. August 5th, so that's a Monday this year. Monday, August 5th is the students' first day of school. We have our next board meeting, our workshop session on August 12th, and then our regular session, August 26th. School will be out on September 2nd, Labor Day, and then our next meeting after that is our board workshop session on September 9th. That's all for today. So may I have a motion to adjourn? May I have a second? Thank you, Greg. Meeting adjourned.